Well, we lost Cato for a minute there, but we'll go ahead and get started with cheering the quarterbacks, I think. Well, I'm sure we all know who the number one QB in the league is.
I say we start from last.
Start from last? Ethan, what are your thoughts? Start from the first or start from last?
I think before either, we want to talk about maybe how many tiers, like what the tiers
That's
mean.
true. So how we tiered them, yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think also tier sizes, a top tier, I only have two quarterbacks, just kind of clear head and shoulders above the rest of them to follow. But we only included starters for this upcoming week one. So anybody like Kyle Allen, Joe Flacco, even rookies like Tua aren't really there yet. But with people that are starting week one, Fitzpatrick all the way to the top with, I don't want to say his name yet, he who must not be named.
Yeah. So I think we all probably tiered them a little differently.
I think
I
the
say we start
rankings-
with last and go ahead and get going.
That works for me.
Well, I'll
My
kick
bum.
us off.
All right.
I had good old starting QB for the Miami Dolphins, Mr. Ryan Fitzpatrick, as my number 32 overall QB. We've all seen him for his whole career. He's good for about 2 to 4 games a year where he looks really good, and the rest are complete dog shit. So that's why he's dead last for me.
Yeah, he's not my number 32. My number 32 is Tyrod, just because I don't think there's any reason he should be near a football field.
Yeah, I think, and I have Trubisky, but Tyrod's right there too. I think that with, like the worst starter in the league, you should expect nothing, like exceptional at all. Like the team's probably going to do badly. The thing about Fitzpatrick is that, any given game, it seems like he could, throw for like 4 or 5 touchdowns. But looking anywhere past, like 1 or 2 games, it's like he's either going to get hurt, he's going to turn back into, the old vet that's played for, how many teams now? Like so many, it's you probably can't count on one hand. So I think Fitzpatrick, he's down there. I just, Trubisky, the day Mitch Trubisky throws for 5 touchdown passes is the day that I never talk about football again.
All right, let's go to number 31 for me. I'm just one off of Hunter. I went with Tyrod Taylor, starter for the Chargers next season. This guy, he's not accurate. He's not fast enough to really be an elite, kind of out of the pocket guy. Just not much there with him. He doesn't really win games. Second to last for me.
Yeah, I have Tyrod here too. I think the only real difference between him and Trubisky is that you kind of know what Tyrod Taylor is, and people still clinging to any hope for Trubisky are just totally delusional. But Tyrod, his role is just playing until the rookie's ready, whether that be the year that he was in Cleveland for Baker or this year with the Chargers. You just know that he's only in there because Herbert isn't ready yet.
Yep. Yeah. My number 31 is Mitch Trubisky, just because he's hot garbage. And I thought he was going to prove me wrong a couple years ago, I think 2018 season. But then last year he just was god-awful again, and here we are. He's number 31 for that reason.
Well, on to 30. So I went with Nick Foles because I read a headline yesterday or the day before that he was actually the leading QB so far as reps goes in Chicago. I could be wrong, but both of them are still terrible. They're both still bottom 3 of the league. So Nick Foles, kind of the same Fitzpatrick kind of thing. He's good for 2 to 4 games where he might look pretty good, pretty average, but then the rest of it's just hot garbage. So that's where I went.
Yeah, I think with Foles, if he was in there instead of Trubisky, I think he would definitely be a couple spots higher. just because it's hard to forget about the Super Bowl, and that playoff run a couple years ago. But I mean, even just back when he was in Jacksonville last year, the couple games that he was in, it's like comparing his play to, Gardner Minshew's. He was an undrafted rookie, and Minshew looked so much better. So I think it would be hard to get excited about Foles if he was starting this year. I have Burrow at 30. I think that, Burrow, you can talk about how he played in college, either last year or all the other years before when he wasn't that great. But he's a rookie. And bottom line is that you just never know what you're getting. You can ask Ryan Leaf fans, like how good, he was expected to be. Or you can talk to, people like Peyton Manning, his fans, that like he ended up being one of the best quarterbacks ever.
Yeah, I get that.
True.
Yeah, this part right here is about to be just a nice little run of bridge QBs on my list. Just the ones
I'll start another tier too.
Yeah, just the ones that you want for a few games or for the full season if you're about to like tank for Trevor Lawrence or something along those lines, But number 30, I have Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he's a much better quarterback than Trubisky and Tyrod, just because with those few games that he puts up where he looks like a pro quarterback, he's throwing for 350 and 5 touchdowns. So if you can do that 5 times a year for me, that's good enough to be in this category.
All right, number 29 for me. I went with good old Gardner Minshew. He's a fan favorite just because he's freaking awesome. I don't know why. He's just cool as hell. But on the field, it's just below average, weak arm, decent accuracy. I just don't think there's much there. He'll probably be a career backup, but he'll be a solid backup. But we'll see how he does this season.
Yeah, I think the thing about Gardner is that it's just hard seeing him stick in Jacksonville. They're obviously going to go at this point, probably go and try to get Lawrence next year in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you leave, that first team, I mean, it's really difficult seeing him get another chance somewhere else to start and actually given, like full control of the offense. So even if he ends up as a career backup, I think he has decent potential for any game that he's playing in. He kept the Jags in a lot of games last year. I think even with DJ Chark being the number one receiver, I mean, it's not like Chark was spectacular coming into the league.
Nope.
He's obviously pretty talented and has, some height and everything, but Gardner threw him a really nice deep ball. It's just he has no chance to win this year in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My 29 is Teddy Bridgewater to get away from the Gardner Minshew conversation. I just think Teddy is nothing more than a very solid game manager. And that's not taking anything away from him, but I just don't think he's ever going to win you a game on his own. I don't think he'll ever lose you a game, but I just don't think he'll ever win you a game on his own.
Yeah, I feel that. At 28, we got to see him a little bit last year, so we'll see how he does as a full season. I've got Dwayne Haskins. I like this guy decently coming out of college. I got a little worried once he got knocked off his spot. He was not very good. Maybe he's made the improvement this season, although he lost his really good left tackle to the Niners, even though he didn't play last year. But if he can show the same accuracy in the pocket as he did in college, he can move up my list a lot. But as of right now, I'm not too high on him.
Yeah, I think Haskins, it's easy to get excited about his frame and it's easy to get excited about his arm, but that's honestly about it. I think that, having Terry McLaurin there, one, just how talented he is, but two, because they played together in college, I think that has to be good for him, in his first couple years in the league while he's maturing as a passer. But other than that, you're worried about almost every other piece around him, like any other receivers, any other tight ends, any running backs, like that aren't Darius Geis and probably getting kicked out of the league.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I get that. My number 28 is Gardner Minshew. Similar to Trevor's reasoning, I don't know. I don't think his arm talent is good enough to be a starter. I do think he's fun, and I like rooting for him, but I just don't think he has the traits necessary to be a franchise quarterback at the next level.
All right, moving on to 27. I've got Baker Mayfield. I thought he's going to be a little bit better pro than what he
Spicy
has
take
been.
right there. Holy shit.
I mean, if you go off his last season, I mean, it's not that great because they on film, every time that he gets pressure in the pocket, he would run to the right. So they would just freaking lock down the right side of the field, or I guess left for the defense, and it just was not pretty. But he has a great opportunity to shoot up my board because he's got should have a better O-line, another year with his weapons. Should be an overall just better year for him if it works. New coach, we'll see how it goes. But right now, I'm not that high on him.
I think the equivalent issue of having Freddie Kitchens as your coach would be like playing for some, like shitty Division II school in college. And it's like, even if you like were putting in all the effort, it's just the play calling wasn't there. I mean, I saw all these compilations of them, like they had that fourth down, like draw play, and everyone's like, Freddie, what are you doing? I think Kitchens was a little in over his head with that, like that hire that Cleveland had. I guess he was the interim and they kind of tried to keep him for a little bit. But Stefanski comes over from Minnesota. They ran a lot of 2 tight end sets over there with their 2 receivers in Thielen and Diggs. That obviously I think Landry and Odell are more than, like ready to take on the challenge of being those 2 receivers of that offense. If Baker doesn't do it this year, it's hard to wonder. Hard to think that he'd be able to do it, in the future. But I think that in the past, he just hasn't had enough, like mainly coaching to really like say whether or not he was the guy moving forward.
Yeah, this is definitely a make or break year for Baker. They brought in the weapons with Hooper, and then they have OBJ, Landry, Njoku, Chubb, and Kareem Hunt in the backfield. There's absolutely no reason that he should struggle this year, especially with the coaching scheme and change. But who's to say? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Personally, I'm a little bit higher on Baker than you are, Trevor. My 27 guy is actually Ryan Tannehill.
Ooh, interesting.
Also low, but
yeah, I'm just not high on Tannehill and have not really been since he got drafted by Miami. I think he's the product of a very good system and a good defense in Tennessee. All he really has to do is hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. What was it, a playoff game where he had, 7 passes, 9 passes, something like that?
The New England one. Yeah.
Yeah, the New England. Yeah. Like, how are you going to be a starting quarterback and only pass the ball 9 times in today's league? I think that's a sign of the hindrance at the QB position for Tennessee, which is why Tannehill is slow.
I will say, we can have the Tannehill argument in a little bit, but in that playoff game specifically, New England's defense, was so dominant last year that as soon as they were like, hey, giving the ball to Derrick Henry's working, until there's a reason not to, I can't blame Tennessee for riding him out. He had such a crazy run of, just absolute dominance against great defenses, especially late in the year.
Oh, yeah. All right, moving on. Gotta find where I'm at. At number 26, I've got the man himself, Phillip Rivers. He's his first year in Indy. He'll have a lot better O-line, but I just don't think the arm's there anymore. What is he going to be, 39, 40 this year? Something like that?
I think he's going to be 38.
Yeah, either way, he's getting up there, and I've never thought of him as like a big arm guy, in my opinion. So I don't think it's going to work that well with this year in Indy. Excuse me. I just don't see it.
I think with Rivers, I was talking to Hunter before we started recording. I think Rivers could either be one of those guys that plays well Indy seems like a potential playoff team in the AFC, but just as likely that he plays well, he could be out of the league next year. I think that his age is definitely getting to him. I think his decision making is much worse of an issue than anyone's giving him credit for. I mean, just like Jameis Winston, interceptions that
Whoa,
you wonder
now.
why. You wonder why he threw the ball. But his weird, kind of like throwing motion, I never really was a fan of. But he was so efficient for so long that I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt until his age starts getting to him.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with Rivers. I think his arm is not necessarily as big of an issue as it should, or as it is being made out to be. Like Ethan said, the decision making is a lot more of an issue to me. But I think him going to the Colts and working with Frank Reich is going to be very good for him.
Mm-hmm. My 26, Hunter, I know you're going to love this, with Sam Darnold. And this is something where he could have been, like multiple spots higher. But, Adam Gase sucks as a coach. Honestly, as a guy, I remember that day that he got hired by the Jets, and you had,
he
like
looked coked
the
out.
eyes.
Oh, yeah, he
eyes.
did.
Well, he looked like the Zuckerberg, like humans need water and like the whole like robot thing. It's like, it was just, I mean, you had to wonder if he was an actual human being. But just as a play caller, I mean, when Gase was in Miami, I mean, who all did he run out of town? He ran the running back that had knee issues. That I'm blanking on his name right now. Ajayi had, two straight or 2 games that year with 200 yards rushing, and Gase, didn't bring him on the team plane, and they cut him, and everyone was kind of wondering, like, dude, what are you doing? He's probably our best player. I feel so bad for Darnold because on any other team, it looks like he'd be able to showcase his talent, so much better. But the Jets seem like a lost cause.
Yeah, I think the Jets are the most, talentless roster in the NFL across the board. And I think they're terrible. But it is what it is. My 26 is Dwayne Haskins. I like his arm. I like his talent. I just think his decision making is a little inconsistent and his mechanics are inconsistent. I think working with Ron Rivera will be very good for him, and I think we could see him break out this year.
Yeah, if he gets an O-line in front of him, he's got a pretty decent chance. Well, O-line and receivers.
Yeah, true.
At 25, I've got Cam Newton. And Cam, another player who's got a lot of potential to move up my list, or even down. His accuracy is going to be a problem in New England, I think. That's more of a precision game, in my opinion, so I don't think that's going to be too great for that system. But Bill Belichick is known for his adjustments, so we'll see how that works. But he's coming off another injury. We don't know how the shoulder is. I mean, the shoulder looked terrible before he had the surgery last year, so we'll see if it's healed or not. Decision making, I still don't love. He throws everything 100 miles per hour. But I mean, if Cam Newton really balls out and he is 100%, he will jump up my list because he's still a damn good football player.
Yeah, it's with Cam, it's always injury concerns. But honestly, with any quarterback, if you talk about them being hurt, it's going to be tough for them to be, high on the list at all. I think with Cam, I always noticed his mechanics, his footwork just always kind of seemed, off.
Non-existent.
Yeah, and I think that, even with a really nice arm, if you're throwing off platform, you're throwing off your back foot, it's so difficult to be precise with the football, like you said. But in New England, I mean, how long? I was talking to one of my friends about this the other day with McDaniels up there, having Brady for X many years, having that same playbook year after year. It's like a student turning in the same paper, like year after year for a final. Like they never have to change anything. So now it's like if everyone's talked about McDaniels as one of the best OCs in the league, it's like this is the time that he's able to put his money where his mouth is. Draw up some plays for former MVP. Cam has physical abilities that no other quarterback has. So if he's healthy, I'm hoping that, especially now that he's out of the division. It would be cool to see him succeed. But yeah, I have Locke here at 25. Other than he only played a couple games last year. He had that kind of rap lip syncing session on the bench that everyone kind of remembered him for. I can't really get behind him until he starts, like playing more next year. But all those receivers, he's gotta improve off of last year. So
yeah, I get that. My 25 is actually going to be Joe Burrow. I personally would rather roll the dice with Joe Burrow than any of the guys that I've named like before him. And I just think this kid has all the traits that you're looking for at the next level, and I think he's going to be great.
All right, let's go to 24. My 24 is the exact same situation as a player beforehand. I went Ben Roethlisberger, coming off a injury year. We haven't seen him play in a year. I'm not gonna lie. What did he hurt last year? I don't even remember.
it was
Was it his
shoulder.
neck?
I think it was a shoulder.
Shoulder?
His upper body, yeah.
Yeah, so he's coming off season. The only reason I've got him above Cam, just because he's a little bit more accurate, so he kind of fits today's game a little bit more. But other than that, it's just a lot of injury concerns and unknowns with the player coming off an injury like that. He has more weapons as far as not elite. He has better weapons in Pittsburgh, so that should help him out. And I would say a better line than New England. So maybe he'll outperform his ranking right now.
Yeah, I get that.
I have been a lot higher, but that's honestly just assuming that he's healthy, which you can never really do. He's been to multiple Super Bowls. He has one of the best deep balls I've ever seen. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't played in close to 2 years, I think. I have Teddy Two Gloves here, Carolina. He's so hard not to like after all of the injuries that he's overcame. But also it's really hard to kind of see him in, like today's game, spreading the ball out past, 30 yards downfield seems like all his arm can handle. McCaffrey's there, the offense pretty much still runs through CMC. And I think that Teddy does a great job taking care of the football, not turning it over.
Yeah, I get that. I like Teddy, and I'm rooting for him, and I want him to be good after everything he's been through, but I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback. My 24 is Daniel Jones from the Giants. I was a lot lower on him when he came out and was a rookie last year, but I just think that situationally a second year in the system, adding some O-line help in Andrew Thomas and the new coaching staff will be good for him, and I think he'll step up his play this year.
Yeah, I have Jones is actually my next quarterback. He's so turnover prone. I remember that play that Jamal Adams had last year, where he really just took the ball straight from. He didn't punch it out. He just grabbed the football, and other than that, he had a lot of bright spots. Like late game drives. He looks pretty athletic. Like more so than you'd think. So especially in a run first offense, kind of what it seems like with Jason Garrett moving to New York, as well as, Saquon being there, I think that he could, take a couple steps forward the next few years. But I definitely want to wait and see.
Yeah, I think I read today he fumbled 18 times and threw like 13 interceptions, something like that.
Yeah, sounds right.
And I think he lost 11 of the 18 fumbles. So, but he had like 3 or 4 games of like over 120 passer rating and really looked good. So if he can stay consistent, he might be a pretty daggone good player. All right, moving on to 23. I went with Teddy B out of Carolina. Overall, just a consistent guy. He's not going to wow you in any play he's ever made, but he's going to consistently hit the guy, hit the open man, make right decisions. He doesn't turn over the ball. I think, literal definition of a game manager. Like, it doesn't get much better or worse. It's just Teddy B.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things I put for Teddy is that he can definitely win games against bad teams. But I really have a lot of questions about as soon as, he's facing a top defense, any ability to push the ball down the field seems like it's out the window.
Yeah. I don't know. I think with McCaffrey, it'll be able to hide some of Bridgewater's weaknesses, but I just don't think he's ever going to elevate the team to the level of just being competitive all the way around.
That could be Justin Fields' new home next season.
Or Trey Lance.
Or Trey Lance.
Or maybe even Trevor Lawrence. We don't know how good or bad Carolina's actually going to do. My 23 is Denver's new golden boy, Drew Lock. I don't know. For me, it just felt like John Elway's finally hit on a quarterback after whiffing on so many. I think Drew Lock has the arm talent and the ability to thrive in Mile High, especially now with the weapons around him. I don't think there's any reason he should not step his game up and play. There are questions with his limited reps last season, playing in only, 4 or 5 games as a starter. But still, I don't know. I think he's good, and I think he's going to show that he was slept on as a rookie.
Yeah, I think he started the last 5 games of the season. He won 4 out of 5, I think, and looked pretty solid. I mean, I like Drew Lock a good bit, which was surprising because I wasn't a huge fan of his coming out of college, but I think he kind of surprised us all last season. All right, next on my board at number 22, I've got Daniel Jones, New York Giants' own. Wow. So he got picked at 6 overall, and I was unbelievably shocked because I didn't think he was that great, but his rookie year ended up being fantastic. Benched Eli Manning. He started. Of course, he had his ups and downs. I mean, we mentioned the turnovers. Turnovers weren't great. But as far as accuracy, poise in the pocket, and with that O-line not being that great either, overall, just a really solid season, and I'm looking forward to see a second season of Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I definitely think he has the upside. And with a seemingly, weak division that he's playing in, I think Dallas can be pretty strong this year, but Philadelphia's already been, kind of struck with a ton of injuries, and Washington's Washington. But I have Cam here. This is actually the second tier from last for me, to where, we're talking about starters who aren't, exceptional necessarily, but they can play well in a good system. So with Cam, we know what he can do and what he's done in the past. So if he's healthy, then, I'm pretty excited. But they have absolutely no receivers. Mo Sanu was best as a number 2 for someone like Julio. But, Edelman, might be catching, a ton of passes underneath. I just don't see them.
N'Keal Harry's still a question mark.
Yeah, the athleticism is there, but I definitely think this is in one of the bottom groups in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
for receivers.
Yeah, my 22 is actually going to be Baker Mayfield, just because I think that he could go up or down from this point. I think he is going to go up because his weapons around him, as we said earlier, and then them improving their line with Conklin and Jedrick Wills. I just don't think there's any excuse for Baker to be bad this year.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not good this year, it might be kind of dunzo in Cleveland. So at 21, I've got Sam Darnold of the Jets. I think Darnold has a lot of upside. He's still, I think, 23 years old. But we've mentioned it's one of the worst rosters in the league. But as far as his play, there's games that he's on and he's hitting everybody and they're looking really good. But then there's games like the seeing ghost game, and he threw 5 interceptions, something like that game. And so it's very hit or miss. I do like the upside, but I could see him falling a lot if this season doesn't go very well.
Darnold going into the draft, I was really excited about him. And then probably not as excited as what was it uh, with Colin Cowherd talking about, like the thick, trunky coastal boys and everything. He loves his USC
Yep.
quarterbacks. But no, he had a lot of traits that, people were talking, basically is Andrew Luck like. But Jets were just one of the worst places for him to land. There's no real receiver there that kind of scares anybody. I think they tried to pretend that Brashad Perryman was this offseason. But if anything, it looks like you're shopping the bargain bin. So yeah, with Darnold, it's honestly, just kind of wishing him, well until he either gets to a better team or they can get Gase out of there.
Yeah, I don't know. You'll get my opinions on Sam Darnold later. I have a spicy take about him.
Oh Lord.
At 21, I have Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the worst quarterback to get a deal his size in the NFL. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo does much well. I think he's good enough to be. I think he's good enough to be a low end starter because we're starting to hit my tier of the starters, like guys who I'd be comfortable with starting for my team. And I don't know, with Jimmy, I just don't feel comfortable. I don't think he ever has a chance to elevate the team. I think he most of the time is just not that great of a quarterback. I think he's just very, very average.
Hunter, I am honestly shocked that you were the one that had Jimmy this low. I have him, coming up soon. I had Goff here. I think they're both pretty similar quarterbacks in that, a good system, either with McVay, especially a couple years ago, when Gurley was running the ball so well, and then with Shanahan in San Francisco, you're going to be throwing to open receivers, and you're going to have a lot of dudes running, just like so far away from another defender, where you're going to look great. But I mean, with someone like, I remember the game, Pat Mahomes didn't play. Matt Moore stepped in KC. Andy Reid is notoriously great play caller, and Matt Moore looked great. And it was kind of one of those moments where you realize, like, well, hey, what if like Nick Mullins a couple years ago? What if Matt Moore was playing in San Francisco when receivers were running wide open?
It would have been the same as Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, same thing with Goff. I think the only thing with Goff is that was this the second time he's on Hard Knocks now, and it's so difficult to watch someone that doesn't know where the sun rises and sets and be like, oh, that's my quarterback. So
Yikes.
Mental question marks. I would say there's nothing really, like great about Goff you feel good about. I'd say the same thing about Garoppolo.
All right. I'll give my take in a little bit. We're going to move on to number 20, and this was a bit of a gamble for me because we haven't seen him play NFL football, but I went with Joe Burrow at number 20.
Ooh, high on the rookie.
Yeah, I mean, did you watch last season, dude?
Yeah, but he's also a rookie quarterback. We've seen them wash
I
out
know.
so fast.
I know. And plus, in Cincy, it's more likely than not he's not going to do very well.
So look at Jamarcus Russell. He was the last great LSU quarterback.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of a difference there, in my opinion. I mean, you can argue that Burrow had the best season as a college football quarterback in history. But we'll go to the NFL. He needs an offensive line. I'm not sure if he's going to get it in Cincy. I mean, they have Jonah Williams, but he's coming off an injury. I'm not sure how healthy he is now. The rest of the line is very shoddy. But he's got weapons because he's got T. Higgins, A.J. Green, Boyd. I don't remember their tight end, but Joe Mixon out of the backfield. Like, he's got the tools to do it. If he can get time to throw, I think he's got a lot of potential. This one it's probably my hottest take, possibly, so it might bite me in the ass later on. But right now, Joe is at 20 for me.
Yeah, I think unquestionably last year for Burrow, the national title run, the Heisman, probably one of the best, if not the best, individual seasons in college football history. But in Burrow's case, was it not his only season in college football history that he was even, like on like NFL radar? And so just going straight from irrelevance to number one pick, I think is going to warrant some head scratching. Like the talent, obviously he threw over so many good defenses last year. But that was the only year that he did it. So I think in the AFC North, he's going to get tested pretty quickly. I would say Pittsburgh is a surefire top 5 defense this year. I would say that Baltimore is always at least a top 10 defense. Cleveland, I would say plays as well on defense as they do on offense, which might not mean too much. But he'll be tested quickly. He has the weapons though, so we'll see.
Yeah. My number 20 is actually Kirk Cousins because I think him and Jimmy Garoppolo are the same. I think they're the same player, him and Garoppolo. Yeah. Everything I said about Jimmy, I'm just going to copy right over and say about Cousins. Average player, doesn't really do anything to elevate the team. Would not mind him as a starter. But I think Kirk Cousins is the master of garbage time.
Trevor, I'm there with you. As a sneak peek, I have Cousins in my top 10. So not high,
Agreed.
But he's in my top 10.
Ethan, who's your number 20?
20, I had Baker. This is going to be the third time we talked about Baker just needing to prove it this year. I think the biggest thing is, like we were saying, he had a lot of tendencies that hopefully with a better coach, every time he scrambles, he doesn't run on the same side of the field, that sort of thing. So I'm on his side. I'm in his corner. But if he doesn't play well this year, then it's not going to matter. So.
All right, moving on to 19. And another player I'm betting on the upside is Mr. Drew Lock out of Denver. From the 5-game stretch we got last year, this guy looked way better than I thought he'd ever be. He's got weapons there, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. I'm sure there's others, but I'm drawing a blank.
KJ Hamler.
KJ Hamler. Should have the tools there, and I mean, this kid can sling it. Pretty good in the pocket. I think he's got some out of the pocket moves too. So overall, I think he might be a breakout candidate this year.
Yeah, I agree with most of those things. I honestly, you could say the same thing. Josh Allen, I've got here at 19. Athletic ability right there. Arm, like if there's anybody in the NFL that has a stronger arm than Pat Mahomes, it's Josh Allen. With receivers, I'm a big fan of John Brown. I think he's really underrated. I'm definitely a big fan of Cole Beasley. They have Dawson Knox at tight end, who's super athletic. Devin Singletary. I think that
Stephon
the
Diggs.
Bills, and now with Diggs, yeah. So they already had receivers last year, and Josh Allen already looked decent. But when you add a number one that can shake pretty much any corner, their defense is always strong because McDermott's such an underrated coach.
Agreed.
I really think that Josh Allen, the nerds don't love him efficiency wise. Like the numbers aren't always there, but that's kind of when you just look in the eye test, and he's just so impressively athletic.
Yeah, for sure. Next on my list is actually Big Ben Roethlisberger. I'm higher on him because I just have faith that he'll step in and play at a competent level, which is more than anything you can say about Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges last year. Matt Watkins, if you're listening, I'm sure you're probably going to slander my name for saying Big Ben's not that great, but he's not. He's come back off an injury. He's 38. He's old. He doesn't look to be in that great of shape. I don't know. He's better than what y'all had, but he's just not. He's not what he was a couple years ago.
Yeah, just with Big Ben, there's just giant question marks. He could be anywhere on the spectrum. He could come in, his shoulder be bad, it'd be horrible. Or he could come in and not freaking miss a beat and just start lighting teams up like he used to. So we'll see how he does to start the season. All right, moving on to 18. I've got Jimmy G here. Um, I love Jimmy G when he was with the Pats, which was kind of surprising. He goes to 49ers, and I thought he'd be just as good, but the accuracy isn't there sometimes. He makes poor mistakes with the ball sometimes, and overall just looks pretty much dead average. I mean, he's right around middle of the pack for me. Overall, I haven't seen anything wow or anything too horrible. It's just a solid average QB.
Yeah,
Overpaid
Jimmy,
one,
I
by the
have
way.
yes, absolutely. Jimmy, I have at 16. I was telling Hunter earlier that he is the prototypical league average starter. I mean, he can command an offense with, like consistent mediocrity. Like I don't think he's really going to self implode, but I mean, in the Super Bowl, there were a couple throws where I guess it's a little nitpicky, but he missed Sanders deep. I think it was late in the fourth quarter, and it's like, it's a tough throw. But if you're talking about an above league average quarterback, it's probably someone that you're probably hoping for someone that can make that throw. If you're in the Super Bowl, unless you're, like a top 10 guy or even like an above average guy, like I don't know. It's just he's gonna make the easy throws. He's not gonna make the hard throws. He's playing for a great offensive system. He probably has the capability to steal like anyone's girlfriend on the planet, but that's about it.
That was good.
Oh man. Next up on my list is Cam Newton. I think Cam coming back healthy, if he comes back healthy, is a threat for the AFC. I think he's too athletic and just too. I think this year he's come back with something to prove. I think he's too motivated this year and too athletic to be easy to stop. I think Belichick and McDaniels are types of guys that can easily fix his footwork and help him, fix his mechanical issues that he's had his entire career. But I think he's going to be good this year.
All right, we shall see. That's for sure. Moving on to 17. I went with Jared Goff from the Rams. Um, 2 seasons ago, the guy looked great, but the last couple's been very hit or miss. I love his arm talent. He can make pretty much any throw you ask him to make. Um, but I mean, McVay's genius has kind of been figured out by the league, so I think that's kind of hindered Goff a little bit, but he can still make every throw you want him to. Keep him upright in the pocket. That's another thing with his offensive line last year was bad. And then his starting left tackle's like 39, 40 years old, something like that. So overall, he's not really set up for success as far as protection-wise. He does have good weapons. So we'll see how it goes, but I still think he's a average to even above average QB.
Yeah, Goff is tough because the Super Bowl run, you really were wondering if he was gonna just continue, like on that trajectory and being one of the top end starters. But then he took such a step back over honestly the last 2 years. And like the arm, I always kind of agreed somewhat with the like the Matt Ryan comparisons. Not that Matt Ryan's bad. I think that Matt Ryan, like an average Matt Ryan season, is probably Jared Goff's best season. But I mean, I would say that Goff has a little bit better of an arm than Matt Ryan. It's just that he looks like he isn't really capable of, controlling an offense. Like I said, like I honestly think that there are some mental question marks. I think he's a little slow with play calling and adjustments pre-snap. But I mean, yeah, the arm's there and the offense, McVay always has stuff dialed up. They always have receivers that can get open. So you'd be asking, for Goff to do a little more. But
Yeah, we'll get to Goff on my list here in just a couple minutes. Right now, I've got Philip Rivers coming up, though. I mean, we've already talked about Rivers a few times, so I'll keep it short. I think Frank Reich is going to rejuvenate his career for at least a year or two, and I think we'll see a competitive Colts team in the AFC South.
All right.
Over under 2 more kids being born before Rivers retires.
I
I'm
think
betting 3. Let's go.
I'm going to go with 1 more being born. I think they'll be pregnant with the second one when he retires.
Book it.
I like it. Okay, so Hunter, I can't believe you slandered this man earlier. I'm actually a Ryan Tannehill fan. I think he's a lot more accurate than the majority of the players that I've listed beforehand, which really sets him apart in today's game. He's good in the pocket. I mean, he's got wide receivers around him. He'll hit the guys when he needs to hit them. It's not his fault that he has a beast of a running back behind him running for 150 yards a game at the end of seasons. So overall, I mean, he's not the biggest arm, but as far as making the throws to get first down and get down to the red zone, this guy can do it. And I think he's right at average is where I got him at, and he has potential to go deep in the playoffs like they did last year.
Yeah, I have Tannehill 1 spot up. But yeah, crazy efficient last year. I think that a lot of people said that his career was, quote unquote, rejuvenated. But he didn't even play that bad in Miami. It's just he was hurt a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Gase was there.
Adam
Didn't have
Gase.
anyone to throw to. So
You guys sensing a trend with Adam Gase here?
I wonder why. So yeah, I think Tannehill hopefully has found a home. They, extended him. I think with, the receivers there with AJ Brown, especially, he should be, this should be the opportunity for him to succeed.
Nice. All right, number 16 on my list is going to be my definition of the most average quarterback in the NFL, which is Derek Carr. I think Carr doesn't do anything amazing or anything super badly. I think Carr's just a very average starter, and I don't know. I just don't really know what else to say other than he's average.
Yeah, I've got Carr coming up here in a couple picks. Moving on to 15, I've got Josh Allen of the Bills. This guy honestly shocked me. I wrote bust on him coming out of college, but he came in and I think he's just a younger Cam Newton. Like, he's got the big arm. He struggles with the accuracy. But as far as playmaking and putting the team on his back and going to win games, this man has done it. That last playoff game against the Texans, kind of a rough spot. But as far as the entire season, the guy has really shocked me. He makes the throws to wide receivers that aren't that great. I mean, he's dumping it down to Cole Beasley and John Brown last year, but now you add Stephon Diggs in there. I think he's set up for a good little bounce back year. Maybe make it into AFC Championship game possibly. So I really like Josh Allen, surprisingly.
Yeah, I'm all for Josh Allen being a potential Pro Bowler.
Yeah. I also have Josh Allen at 15 for most of the same reasons. I think he's just athletic and just a good all-around playmaker. His mechanics are definitely a major issue, but that can also be fixed. So. Okay, number 14, I guess. I've got my spicy take of the day. Well, spiciest take of the day. Sam Darnold is my number 14 ranked quarterback.
Ooh.
I think Sam Darnold has every trait you're looking for in a franchise quarterback. I think we saw it last year when he came back after the mono incident, and Luke Falk had them at like a 1-6 record or something like that.
Oh, I forgot about that.
and they came back to a 7-9. Like they finished the season 7-9. I think he's good enough to win games. I think he puts the team on his back, and I just think he's a good starting quarterback.
I think if you had a role reversal and Darnold and Wentz switch teams, I think that you would see a lot of similar traits in that regardless of what's around him, he succeeds. And with, I guess I'm going to say Gase's name one more time. There's a handicap. There's kind of a ceiling. I don't see them winning 8 games. Also they have no receivers. But if Darnold was on even just a team filled with, like the most average roster in the league, I think that he would truly show, like everything that people saw pre-draft.
Mm-hmm.
Every reason why people thought that he was going to be the next Andrew Luck. I think that talent's still there. It's just you really have to find some different leadership.
Mm-hmm. Okay, quick question before Trevor gives his. And would y'all rather have Freddie Kitchens as your OC or Adam Gase as your OC?
Okay, at OC, I think I'd rather have Gase. At head coach, I think I'd rather have Kitchens.
OC, I'd probably rather say Gase, I think. But it's honestly because Kitchens never cut, any of his best players. But you would probably catch me, like jumping ship and going to a different team if either was the case.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to have to dip because I have to work on a project. But before I leave, I want to hear both of you guys talk about where Dak Prescott is on your rankings. Just as a resident Cowboys fan, I'm curious to see.
All right, I'll start.
Okay.
I've got Dak a good old 12. Yeah, I think he's very overhyped. I think he's closer to average than he is to the top end of the league. He doesn't turn the ball over very much, but he doesn't make the wow throws. He's decently accurate for today's game. Overall, he's just not like top end of the league, in my opinion. I think he's closer to the middle of the pack.
I have Dak just outside the top 5. He's my number 6 quarterback in the league. I think he fits the definition of the modern NFL quarterback that we're transitioning to. Fairly athletic, good throwing on the run, above average accuracy, smart decision making, and a good leader. I don't know, I know I've been one for Dak's slander in the past, but I've had a change of heart, and now he's number 6 on my list.
Hunter, I could not be more proud of you. I just think with Dak as the most unbiased, way of talking about him, the biggest knock, I guess, last year was that, we were 8-8, and he didn't really perform against top defenses. But I have Kirk Cousins in my top 10, and you could kind of say the same thing about Kirk, and he won multiple playoff games. It's not like Dak hasn't won a playoff game before. It's not like he hasn't won a primetime game before. Jason Garrett, I think, was much more difficult of a coach to play for than people realize when it came to, kind of like masking things. I remember there was a quote from Dez after he was released, that depending on the formation, he'd line up and the corner would tell him, like, dude, I already know what route you're running. Just the creativity was that bad. So with McCarthy this year, I think we already talked about Baker. I could say the same thing about Wentz too, even though they're already dealing with injuries. I think this year is so definitive for, how the overall league looks at Dak with finally a competent coach. Obviously with CD, I think that you could say that Dallas has one of the best trios receiver in the league.
Oh yeah.
I think you could say they have the best trio in the league.
I didn't want to say it, but I'm glad someone did. Dak is the winningest quarterback in the NFC since week 1 his rookie year, and he was a 4th round pick that played barely in the preseason because Romo was supposed to start. He had the most drops in the league from receivers last year, and he still almost threw for 5,000 yards. It was like 4,900, like 80 or something like that. So I think the talent's there. He's a strong runner. He's never had injury problems. I think, like you said, Hunter, he is, what you'd want athleticism wise at quarterback. And I guess, it's only so, polarizing, where he's ranked just because he's a Cowboy. But
look at that.
Okay.
Where do you have him ranked, Ethan?
I have him 7. And the people I have above him, Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Breeze, Lamar, Aaron Rodgers. I think that, anybody between, at least for this upcoming year, Brady, Cousins, Matt Ryan, Wentz, if you could probably make the argument for any of them. I just think that, even as someone from Atlanta, I love Matt Ryan, but it's been multiple years now that I've said that I'd rather have Dak than Matt Ryan.
At least you're honest about that.
Just the arm, he can throw, farther than 40 yards downfield. He can move. It's not like he's running through sand. So,
yeah, I definitely think Dak fits today's game much, much better than Matt Ryan does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, truthfully, I also think they're also incredibly difficult to compare between the two of them.
Absolutely. All right, I'm dipping. I'm sure Cato can cut this part, but adios.
Appreciate it, man.
Ethan, thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Okay. What number were we on? Oh.
We were on 14.
Okay, and I just give my Sam Darnold take. Who's your 14?
My 14 is Derek Carr. So he had a sneaky good year last year. I mean, the team went under the radar. They didn't perform that great, but overall, it was one of his better years. It's what you love to see in today's NFL is accuracy. He was accurate. He had not that great of wide receiver core, and he still put up pretty decent numbers. And his number one wide receiver from last year is already banged up going into this season, so that's not great. But they got Henry Ruggs. I think they drafted a few later round guys that should add to the lineup. But I think Carr, I mean, he's 2 spots off average. I think he's just an average QB who could, if you have a good defense and decent enough weapons, he could get you to your Super Bowl. So I just think he's like a Ryan Tannehill, just overall just a decent QB, not higher nor lower, just middle of the pack.
That's fair. All right, we'll move on to number 13. This is where I have Kyler Murray on my list. I think Kyler had a solid rookie season. I think he's going to show out this year. I do have my own questions about Kyler, but none of them are really that glaring issues to me. I think he's going to show out now that he has a true number 1 in DeAndre Hopkins. And just a second year in Cliff Kingsbury's offense will be good for him.
Yeah, I've got him. I got him a few picks ahead.
I'm curious to see how he does in the NFC West, though, with all those good defenses.
Yeah, that's good. That's the question. I mean, for Jared Goff too, Jimmy G, defenses are going to be tough to play around.
Mm-hmm.
All right, at 13, this one it was so hard for me to put him this high, but we did get to see him last year a little bit. I've got Matthew Stafford. He honestly is the king of garbage time, which is horrible to say, but a lot of his yardage every year comes in fourth quarters because his defense always gives up so many freaking yards and points. Mm-hmm. Stafford, another player who can make any throw you ask him to make. Great arm talent. You got to question his playmaking and crunch time. I mean, because like I said, they don't win a lot of games. He needs to be getting out to leads early and just really sticking it to teams. I think they struggle to do that. But as far as talent-wise, he definitely deserves to be this high.
Yeah, I actually have Stafford higher, and we'll hit to him in a minute, though.
Yeah.
All right, number 12. This is where I have Jared Goff. Just because I do have faith in him. I think last year was just a banged-up season for that Rams roster. As we saw when he made it to the Super Bowl, I think the talent is there. I think he can make every throw on the field. As Ethan was saying, a lot of the concerns are kind of mental based, but even then, I'm not that worried. The dude went to Cal, so I'm sure he's smarter than he looks and sounds.
Yeah, I already had Goff go, so I'll touch on a little bit. Like I said, great arm talent. It's a great point about the mental makeup, though. I mean, that's the hardest part of the game to get down, in my opinion. So if he can get between his ears going, and he might be a deadly QB as he matures through the league. All right, at 12 for me, I've got Dak, like I said earlier. I mentioned it. Accuracy's a little bit above average. Decision making's good. I just don't know if there's the playmaking ability. I mean, he gets to lean on that defense. Has been pretty good. It hasn't been great the last couple seasons, but it's been good. He's got Zeke behind him, plus that offensive line. So he's got tools around him that help lift him up higher. But I think he's a little overhyped coming into this season. I could be wrong. Prove me wrong. Be glad to be wrong. But overall, I think he's more of a outside the top 10 guy than he is a deep into the top 10 QB.
Yeah, I think you're going to be wrong on this one, but that's okay. Number 11, I have Carson Wentz, actually. I think Wentz is good. He has all the traits, but I think every year I've been waiting for Carson Wentz to just do the little bit more, to put the team on his back, I guess, a little bit more. Like, just do a little bit more than what he's been doing. I think he misses a few easy throws here and there, which granted last year he had a decimated receiving core.
Yeah, who couldn't catch.
Exactly. Like, yes, he doesn't really have a ton of the talent around him, but I still think if someone's being drafted number 2 overall, he should be able to at least elevate the team and make more plays than he is making. I'm not saying Wentz is bad by any means. We're starting to hit my QBs that can win you a Super Bowl tier with Wentz, but I just am waiting to see him, I guess, display the ability that could win me a Super Bowl.
All right, this one might be a little bit more hot takey for me too. I've got Tom Brady at number 11. I think Tom Brady is deteriorating, like everyone says every year. So I'll be the one to put my foot in my mouth this year. The offensive line in Tampa Bay's gotten a little bit better with Tristan Wirfs, but I still don't think it's that great. I think you're going to see Tom Brady ride that defense this year because that defense is probably going to be disgustingly good. But he's got weapons there, more weapons than he had in New England, but I'm not sure if they're his style because they're more outside wide receivers, and he generally likes to hit the slot guys, but maybe that's just what he had to work with in New England. Overall, we'll see how the arm is there. I just don't think it's the same Tom Brady level it has been for his whole career, so that's why I've got him at 11.
Yeah, I actually have Tom Brady at 10 right here.
Hey, we had our swap because Carson's 10 for me.
Perfect. I don't know. I don't think Brady's bad. I just think I don't know. I think his accuracy was a little off last year. I think he looked less mobile than normal last year. Maybe that's just poor O-line play on the Patriots. Either way, I don't really expect the line in Tampa to be much better than it was in New England. Like you were saying, I'm not expecting Brady to be bad. I'm expecting Brady to make a Pro Bowl and possibly even a Super Bowl. But I just think that in terms of his natural talent at the age of 40, I think he has declined a little bit in the past couple of years. Well, I don't even know if I'd say he declined. I think with the way the league is going, Brady has become less desirable as a quarterback.
Yeah. All right, like I said, 10 for me is Carson Wentz. I'm a big Carson fan. I think healthy Carson is probably the most tool-wise and play-style-wise to Aaron Rodgers. Not like peak Aaron Rodgers, but like a typical Aaron Rodgers. Like he makes the big plays. He makes the flashy plays. I think he kind of struggles with consistency sometimes. But his weapons, especially at wide receiver, like Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert for him have been his saving grace last couple seasons because they've been consistent. But his wide receiver core has been piss poor. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey can't stay on the field. Nelson Aguilar, I think he was close to leading the league in drops last year, I'm pretty sure. They drafted KJ Hamler in the first round this past season, but he had
No, it was not KJ
Jalen
Hamler.
Rager.
Yep, that one.
My mistake.
That's the one.
I believe he struggled with drops in college as well, so that's another negative for Carson. But I think Carson will make it work. If he ever gets a good amount of tools around him, he could be deadly.
Nice. Okay, moving on to number 9. I actually have Matt Stafford here. Me and Cato talked about this one time. I don't remember if it was recorded for the podcast or not. About Matt Stafford being the most overrated and underrated quarterback all at the same time. Because I'm tired of, for the past 8 years, being told Matt Stafford's going to break out this year when he throws for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns every year. Which I get some of that's garbage time, but I don't know. My thing about Stafford is I'm waiting for him to make the plays that will win you the game, not just the flashy highlight reel plays. I think the clutch factor is not there with Stafford, but I think if he can develop it, even though it's later in his career, I think if he can develop it, then it will make him that elite talent.
Yeah, I'm almost out of the Stafford boat. I mean, it's been so long. I know his teams have been bad, but I'm just waiting for something to click, something to work for him to actually make a push into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that division's tough too, so.
Yeah, the division is tough, but I don't know. I think a healthy Stafford will be interesting for Detroit.
All right, my number 9 is honestly pretty dang shocking, is Kyler Murray. That QB class I wasn't that high on, didn't think it was going to be that great. And the guy I thought was going to be the best out of all of them was Haskins. And he ends up being the one who struggled the most so far. But Kyler's been the one who shined. I mean, he was the first overall pick. You expect him to. I mean, question about his height. I mean, he's making accurate throws. He's making the plays outside the pocket. He's keeping his team in games. I know they went on a losing stretch last season. That defense was rough last year, and that offensive line is still not good. It's probably bottom 5 to 7 in the league, somewhere in there. It's not great. So once he gets an O-line, he's going to be freaking might be a top 3 to 5 range because he's got the weapons around him that he could light up teams week in and week out.
Yeah, I think Kyler's a good example of the modern quarterback. My concerns with him, just as much as I say it, come due to his size. But it is what it is, and I think he will play well this year. Number 8, who you got?
I got Drew Brees.
Okay.
Drew, I mean, of course, he's accurate. He's got Mr. Slant, Michael Thomas, getting open on every play, so he can make that throw all dang game. The question for me is deep ball. I don't think he completed a ball over 40 yards, at least in the air last season, which is not great. But Sean McVay always sets everyone up for success. As long as he stays healthy, he should be able to hit the guys that are open and ride that defense too, and he should be just another playoff contender.
Yeah, I get that. My number 8 is actually Matt Ryan, which is very similar to the Tom Brady that I was mentioning a couple ago about. I don't think he's deteriorated by any means. I think in just the model of today's game and what has been working and what hasn't been working, I just think Matt Ryan has become slowly less desirable, especially with the offense that we run with Dirk Cutter in Atlanta. I just think that I don't think Matt Ryan's bad by any means. I love Matt Ryan. I just think that he's not. I don't know. I think if the Falcons are to make a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, I think it has to be this year. I don't think there's. I think after this year, the Falcons Super Bowl window will be closed.
Yeah, I think I agree with you too, as a Falcons fan, which you hate to see. All right, moving on to number 7, and this one absolutely shocked me. I went Kirk Cousins. So yeah, some of y'all may think I'm crazy, but Kirk, the last 2 seasons in Minnesota, has been a different Kirk. The accuracy's there. He makes the big throws. Poise in the pocket. He leads the team. I know he's weird. Some of his chants
You like that?
are kind of, yeah, that's what it was. You like that stuff that was weird. But overall, his QB play generally week in and week out, he's either matching, if not beating, the quarterback on the other side of the field, and gotta respect that. Uh, he's still not as clutch as he could be, but he still makes some really good throws. I mean, he got to send my good old rivals New Orleans Saints home on the final play last year, which made me so happy. So thank you, Kirk.
My number 7 is actually Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is still the most precise passer in the NFL. I think
Besides Josh Allen.
besides Shea Patterson, you mean?
He's not in the NFL. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, you're right. But no, I do think Brees is the most precise passer in the league. I think he's still stupidly elusive in the pocket in terms of getting away from pressure. He just can't throw the ball really more than 30, 40 yards downfield. And I think that's where the issues come with Brees. Would I be surprised if the Saints win a Super Bowl this year? Not at all. Especially if this is like a Brees' last hurrah type thing. I could very easily see them somehow winning it. So,
All right, moving on to 6. This might be a little biased. A hometown hero, Matt Ryan. But I will argue that Matt Ryan fits today's game more than other players just because today's game requires accuracy. Excuse me. Matt is one of the most accurate QBs in the league. It's a shame that he's never had a defense and his offensive line has not consistently been that good. Because if it had been, I think he would have at least won, maybe 2 Super Bowls. The accuracy's there. He's a playmaker. I think since he's came into the league, I think he's either tied or has the most fourth quarter and overtime wins in the league since 2008. He's got the wide receivers around him. If the offensive line can give him time, he's going to pick you apart every game. Well, hold on. The offense that calls a good game, he's got to get past offensive coordinator, Dirk Cutter, who I still am not a believer in. But it's the second year with him this time around, so maybe they've made the adjustments this year. But overall, I think Matt Ryan is the sixth best quarterback in the league.
that's fair. I mean, that's a safe bet. My 6 is Dak. I already said everything about Dak earlier about him being the prototypical quarterback in today's game, so we're just going to move on from him. Number 5, I've got Aaron Rodgers.
Me too.
Nice. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be on a revenge tour this year. I think he's going to be pissed off that they drafted Jordan Love and then A.J. Dillon.
I would be.
So, I mean, like, all the man wanted was some help, and they give him a running back who's probably a year away from being a starter and a quarterback who's just going to be taking his job in the future. I'd be pissed. And Rodgers is a petty mofo, and so I fully expect him to just ball out this year and carry the Packers into the playoffs.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. Aaron's going to be unbelievably pissed. I'm mad for him. Like, this is ridiculous. The man has one wide receiver.
Why is it ridiculous, though? They did the same thing they did to Rodgers to Brett Favre.
Yeah, and they're lucky it paid off, though. I think that's such a big gamble. It's ridiculous. I mean, they still have a possible Super Bowl contender, and you spend your first round for the future like you're not a Super Bowl contender. Like, that's one of the dumbest. I roasted their draft when it first came out. It was not good at all. I think I probably gave it close to an F. I don't remember what I gave it, but it was not good. But back to Aaron Rodgers. The definition of, if there wasn't one or two guys higher, I would say the definition or the standard of playmaking in the league. The last couple of years hasn't really been there, but the play calling hasn't been great as far as Mike McCarthy. Then last year, the weapons just were non-existent. But with Aaron Rodgers, if he has time, he's going to light you up. And that's why I think he's the 5th best QB.
I get that. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm sure our top 4 are the same and probably in the same order, if I had to guess.
Okay. Who's your
My
4?
my number 4 is Lamar Jackson.
Same here.
Who's your
Let's
number
go
3?
3. Let's go to Sean.
Oh, same here. Who's your number 2?
Let's go Russell.
Oh, and then number 1, Patty Mahomes.
No, Shea Patterson.
Oh, damn it. He's out of the league, though. He's out of the league.
He's still the best.
True.
Yeah, it's Patty Mahomes.
All right, give your thoughts on Lamar.
Okay, Lamar. I thought, just like Josh Allen, I wrote bust on him as far as QB coming out of the college, and he's proved me wrong so far. Although I am still a little bit of a hater, I still think that defense is kind of carrying him a lot, and the running game. But as far as his playmaking, which sets the good quarterbacks away apart from the greats or elite, I guess you could say, is his playmaking. Like, this man with his feet will light you up on any given play, but you can add in he's slowly getting more accuracy. I know his rookie year wasn't that great as far as accuracy. He struggled with a little bit, but last year it showed improvement. If he steps up another one, the whole league is in for a lot of trouble. Like, this man could tear up the league again if he's a little bit more accurate. I think that's the only thing that's holding him back right now. If he gets that, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, I think Lamar is the definition of a Madden creative player.
Yeah.
I think watching Lamar play is like watching a video game. I mean, honestly, I was incredibly wrong on Lamar. He was my 5th ranked quarterback when he came out that year.
Same.
And I'm honestly happy to be wrong about it. I think Lamar is a great icon for the league and will be a potentially great face for the league in the future between him and Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. All right, Deshaun. Y'all have already mentioned it. Deshaun's my boy. The reason I like Deshaun, he's from Atlanta. He used to be a ball boy for the Falcons on weekends. And then when I really fell in love with him is when he took Clemson to one of the best games I've ever seen with the first time he played them in the national championship. But then the next year he beat them. So immediately I was already a fan because as a Georgia fan, I do not like Alabama. And then he came into the league at Houston and just he got hurt his rookie year. Otherwise, he would have set the rookie TD record because he already had, I think, 19 when he got hurt. And I think the record is like 26-ish, something like that, which Baker Mayfield broke his rookie year. So I'm putting an asterisk next to that since Deshaun would have destroyed it. But Deshaun, the arm talent's there. Some of the decision making is a little questionable, but as far as playmaking and taking his team to the win, like think about that playoff game against the Bills last year. He brought his team back and he won that game. And I can't wait to see what his whole career looks like. I think he'll get at least one Super Bowl.
Yeah, my thing about Deshaun, I think Deshaun's an incredible talent and an incredible playmaker. I love his gunslinger mentality. I think it does cost him at times, but I think all in all, he's a great quarterback and is a perfect guy to represent the Houston area and just be a good face for a team that has never really had a face of the franchise, on offense at least. I think he has all the traits that you want, and if they're not careful, I think he could potentially hit free agency in the future.
Right? I mean, they need a legitimate GM in there because it is getting ugly in Houston right now.
Bill O'Brien seems to be struggling a little.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, the quarterback who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer while never being the best quarterback in the league. It just absolutely blows my mind. Russell Wilson wills this team into victory almost every week, or at least wills them into competitiveness every single week. The fact Seattle has not decided to open up the offense yet for Russell Wilson blows my mind. I think he's mobile enough to succeed at this level. I mean, in terms of like today's game, I guess. He's athletic. He has the arm. He can hit any throw, as we've seen throughout time and time again throughout his career. And I think he's just I think he's a great leader for that Seattle team. There's just nothing that this man can't do, and I will never count him out in a game.
Yeah, as far as Russell, I mean, he's quirky. He's a little odd, which I think kind of like makes the locker room maybe a little different with different minded players. But as far as on the field, touch with his throws is one of my favorite things to watch. When he freaking gets it just over the defender, right into the breadbasket for whoever's catching the ball, it amazes me. And he does it consistently. Again, like I say about all these top guys, they're playmakers. He's consistently getting his team down in the red zone, and he's making plays. He's keeping his team in games. That NFC West next year is going to be a bloodbath, and I think he's still there. Seattle's still my favorite to come out of that, just because of the consistency that he has, and like Russell, I like Russell a lot.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, on to the best quarterback in the league, Patrick Mahomes. Do you want to take? You got it. Give your thoughts on him.
Yeah, good old Mahomes. So another player that I was wrong on coming out of college, a little bit of a trend here. I didn't think I saw the flashy plays. I was like, there's no way that translates to the NFL. Well, I was wrong. This man is a tier above everybody else. I mean, everyone else is looking up to this guy just because he's got the arm talent, the accuracy, the playmaking, and he does it every week with a plethora of different wide receivers. And it honestly just amazes me. Like, if you give this guy time to make a play, he's going to make it. It's not like 50-50 chance he makes it. He makes the play. If he continues the same level of play that he is playing at right now, I think he could win anywhere from like 3 to 6 Super Bowls. Like, that's how good this kid is.
My thing with Mahomes is I just love watching him play. Like, having the ability to stretch the field and hit any ball like across the field with precision is just incredible to watch. Especially with his unorthodox style of play, because he looks like he's out there just playing backyard football. Like, Thanksgiving Day pickup game with your family. Your dad's the one quarterback, just doing all the random crap. Like, that's what I feel like I'm watching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's fun to watch, and I just am always in awe at what this guy can do. I don't think there's anything that he can't do on the field. And I'm just so excited to watch him keep developing and see how good he actually gets.
Yeah, he's going to be something. I hope he stays healthy for his career, because if he does, I don't think Matt Ryan will ever win a Super Bowl, because Patty Mahomes will probably beat him.
For sure. Well, Trevor, any last words or thoughts you want to say before we go?
I'd like to thank Ethan for coming on the show. He was a good time, good little brain to pick. Sorry I'm not as high on Dak as you are. Cato unfortunately had Wi-Fi issues, so we'll hopefully fix that for the future. Maybe we can post his top 32 on our Twitter. And overall, glad to be back. It's been a while. Had a good time.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, a couple things before we go. As always, follow us on Twitter at the Backups Cast. Follow each of us individually on Twitter. That's kind of cool. Last week we did it without Trevor. This week we're doing it without Cato. Same old. Oh, and Megan Gallagher requested a shout out on Twitter. So Megan Gallagher, this is your shout out. Ethan, thank you so much for joining us today, man. You're great. Shout out to everybody who listens. And yeah, check us out next time.